right now that you could try and help out the victims and the families going forward.
Okay. What are we going to next? I'm sorry, I heard someone say something in my ear. Okay, we're just going to, we're going to take a moment here, and we are going to kind of gather things and start off the top here at 1 o'clock with all the information that we know, because we know people are tuning in here and there, and they're turning on, and they haven't quite heard everything that they need to know. So we're going to get right at that here in 30 seconds. But again, you're looking at video from the scene of the mass shooting that took place at the Las Vegas Festival grounds, right across from the Luxor off Las Vegas Boulevard there last night. About what, 10:45?
Yeah, I believe the first shots were actually reported at 10:08, and the headliner of that event last night, Jason Aldean, took the stage at 9:40 last night.
All right, and we want to welcome you to our continuing coverage. We have been on the air nonstop, wall to wall, since yesterday, shortly after, I believe, 11 o'clock.
Right.
And we continue to bring you all the information that we have dug up and that we know when it comes to this mass casualty shooting on the Las Vegas Strip at the Las Vegas Festival grounds. It was at the Route 91 Country Music Festival, a sold-out 3-day festival that takes place here every year since 2014. And
we're talking about a crowd of roughly 22,000 people who were there on hand last night when those shots rang out at around 10:08 last night. The suspected shooter on the 32nd floor of a corner suite of Mandalay Bay used, as best as we could tell, 2 different positions, shooting out of 2 different windows with fully automatic weapons. He shot one man in the matter of minutes. We're talking about one man in a matter of minutes, shot close to 600 people. We have 58 of them have been killed. Some 515 were injured. We have dozens of people right now who are critically injured right now. We have fantastic surgeons in our hospitals in Las Vegas doing the best they can, who are on the front lines of this, trying to save lives. Unfortunately, though, we've seen this number only increase throughout the day. Let's hope the next update we get does not include an increase.
Oh, definitely. He didn't seem to think so, Sheriff Lombardo. He even said, I don't have too much more to tell you at the last press conference. So obviously they're doing what they can. And again, we do hope that that number does not increase. But Sunrise Hospital's been great at keeping us in tune with what's going on there, as well as UMC. And Marissa's been out there live gathering information as well.
And we have Parker Collins right now, who is live there just off the Strip with an update on traffic. Parker.
Todd, I want to just start everything off by showing you the road over here. This is the Strip near Sunset. It just moments ago opened back up. Troopers have left and both sides of the Strip have opened. We're finally seeing cars going back and forth. I don't know if you can hear that, but also planes are flying overhead. I'm sure, as you know, if you've been watching, that activity at McCarran Airport was suspended for a while, but clearly that's going on again. I just want to let you guys know the traffic is picking up. One other thing I want to point out, though, is that people are starting to show up where I am. This is Las Vegas Boulevard and the Sunset, and just walking up to people, asking, how can I help? I've had restaurants show up with food. I've had people with water, and I even tweeted a picture. There's some people with posters and the Nevada state flag. They're just standing up here in the intersection over here, just waving it, stuff saying, you know, we are battle-born, we are Nevada, we are strong, things like that, just messages of hope. And that was really inspiring for me. I did not expect them to just show up here wondering, how can I help? I want to do something. I want to feel a part of it. And I've been hearing you guys talk about those kind of inspiring stories. I feel a little bit removed. I'm over here just kind of watching the scene, looking for updates, and I'm even seeing it over here, which surprised me. Back to you.
All right, Parker, thank you so much for that update, and thank you for your efforts throughout the morning. It has been a long morning for so many of us as we try and do our best right now to provide the most accurate, reliable information as quickly as we can. I know so many people right now in and around Las Vegas are just heartsick over what they are seeing right now on their images, as are we. It's hard to look at that number, and it's hard to comprehend that this is, we're not talking about another city. We're talking about our great city of Las Vegas now being home to the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history.
Yeah, it has been unbelievable to be a part of this and watch it unfold and learn more and more tragic news this morning. There has been some good that has come out of, if any, there is no silver lining, but the community has come together and they have donated blood, so much blood, that they've actually stopped taking blood and need people to make appointments in order to give blood. We've been showing you the lines signs. We've been showing you people pile up water for those folks that are waiting in line for hours just to give blood. There are prayer services set up tonight, one at Central Church from 7 to 8, another on the steps of City Hall. The President of the United States has called Metro Police and our mayor and thanked them for their quick response, saying that it could have been worse, and they did save lives. We've heard the President speak from Washington and have a moment of silence. Our former presidents have sent out messages. Our headliners have sent out statements and messages, our sports teams, and it has just been really incredible to see it all unfold. I guess we do have an update on what do we have an update on?
On the GoFundMe account that's been established by Clark County Commissioner Steve Sisolak. It was at, there it is on your screen right now. It's close to $1 million so far raised. The initial goal, I think, was $500,000. Then it was up to $1 million. Now it's $2 million. So all of our viewers out there, we want to say thank you so much. It's an example of the heart that you are showing right now with your donations of blood, food, and water, and also your monetary donations, giving whatever you can, whether it's $5, $2, $10, $200, even if things are tight right now, maybe just retweeting this or sharing on social media. Do something to play your part, and we're seeing the results of that right now. This number continues to grow.
Yeah, and you look at some of the donations, I'm seeing $10, $25, and that's a high number for all those small increments. So you're thinking, obviously there's probably some large ones too. Steve Sisolak started off with 10,000, but you see all those donations, and it's just definitely an indicator and how much it adds up to create such a large number, almost at $1 million, and we've got community members giving 15, 25, so it shows that any little amount that you can give makes a difference.
Yeah, people are responding in kind, and we're just also getting updates and word on, and I'm sorry, Jessica, you said there is a fundraiser from Freed's Bakery. There you see it right now, saying it's going to be on Wednesday from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. Proceeds are going to go to the victims' families, I believe, but you can look them up on Facebook to get more information. Again, just another example of how the community now is responding in a positive way and saying, you know what, the shooter, he doesn't get to define who we are. He doesn't get to tell the world what Las Vegas is about. We're going to do that, and we're going to do that through great acts of kindness and generosity and warmth and compassion, and we're seeing that unfold throughout the day.
Yeah. Obviously, so many videos that we've got in from people who are there that are okay and were able to send us those videos. Police still looking for videos like this, but they're saying don't tweet them, don't email them. They'd really like you to come to the police station and drop off your video so that they can speak with you. So keep that in mind. If you do have video or you know any friends, family that were there and have any video, please share that with the police department. They are gathering everything they possibly can to try and figure out what went on, how this happened, how they can prevent it, learn from it, all those things.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as the hours unfold here, we're starting to get more and more information about some of the victims, and one of the first victims that we got wind of was a 29-year-old man. I believe we have that as well. We could pull up his picture. He's been identified as a 29-year-old Sonny Melton. He is from in Tennessee, just west of Nashville. He was here last night with his wife. Indications are that as the shots rang out, he jumped in front of his wife to protect her, and he did exactly that. He saved her life, but he lost his in the process. Just one example right now of the tragedy. I don't know, can we pull that up? Can we pull his picture up of 29-year-old Sonny Melton or not? But we had it up earlier. It's tragic. It's so hard to understand, and you think about so many families right now who are dealing with such enormous levels of grief and anger and frustration and confusion. There you see the young man's picture there again. 29-year-old Sonny Melton from West Tennessee. He was here in our city last night with his wife, like so many people, enjoying this wonderful 3-day music festival. It was a beautiful weekend too, weather-wise here in Vegas. It was everything you could have had hoped it to be, and then for it to end in such utter devastation and heartbreak is, well, it's hard to really define the words for it. And so many people are going to be struggling with this for so many years to come.
Yeah, that is for sure. All right, we are going to go to Yasmin. She has an update on the UNLV assistant coach. I believe it was hockey, right? Yasmin, we were hearing that he or she was in the hospital?
Yes, a little earlier this morning, we showed you this tweet. He actually took a gunshot to the chest, was in the ICU, but Marissa Kinniston is at UMC, and we do have an update that he is expected to make a full recovery, again, still in the ICU, but that's the latest from UMC, so happy to give a little bit of good news in all of this morning.
Great. Okay, great. Sorry, we're just getting some updates from the booth here. Darcy Spears is going to join us momentarily, and she's been looking into the shooter's background. We've all been trying to figure out what kind of background he has, because from what we can see, it seems pretty clean, and everyone thinks this is really out of the ordinary and very odd. So Darcy's been looking into that. She'll be here in just a second.
We're looking for answers, something that could tell us that this man, something that could maybe connect the dots, because as of right now, we haven't been able to connect the dots. Everything in his life seemed, you know, somewhat ordinary, and Darcy is getting up here on the desk with us right now. Thank you so much for your time. I know you've been doing a whole lot of digging here. What can you tell us right now, Darcy?
Well, Dana and Todd, we've been looking into what could possibly be in the suspect's background that might have contributed.
Right.
We've been mining court records, looking at family court, justice court, district court, federal court. We did find something interesting in district court. Stephen Paddock, who's the shooter, he sued the Cosmopolitan for a slip and fall where he claims to have been injured. This was back on October 30th of 2011 when he was a guest at the hotel. He says that as he walked from a sundry shop off of a hotel corridor, he took 15 or 20 steps and then apparently fell in some liquid that he claimed had been spilled on the floor by an unknown source. Records show that Paddock was en route to the high-limit gambling area in the hotel when he fell. As a result of the fall, he allegedly tore his hamstring and sprained his right hand and wrist. He also claimed his blood pressure was elevated due to the trauma and that he racked up more than $32,000 in medical bills. That was following the accident, according to his case. The case did go to arbitration on July 31st of 2014, and as a part of that arbitration, the Cosmopolitan showed video of Mr. Paddock's fall. We're trying to see, of course, if we can get that, if it still exists. But the arbitrator said that in the video, it did appear that Paddock slipped in some substance, but the video showed an employee and about 20 other customers walking through the exact same area immediately before he fell, and no one appeared to notice anything. Paddock testified, and I'm using an exact quote here, that there's no way you are going to see liquid on the floor, but the arbitrator ruled against Paddock and ruled in favor of the Cosmopolitan. Something else we learned as we were researching this particular district court case is that sources in the legal community familiar with the case say Paddock was a known gambler who frequented many Las Vegas properties, and we are learning from those sources that over the last few days, he's rumored to have lost a lot of money playing video poker. There's no way to tell, of course, if that contributed to his motive for the shooting, but it could be a factor in his mindset. So that's what we're learning as far as what's in court records. Not a whole lot of really nothing else on him except for this case and that history of him being a known gambler. But Todd and Dana, there's a lot of other things that we've been looking at in the process of what we're trying to learn. We do have messages out to a local firearms expert to see if we can learn a little bit more about what type of firepower would be used to cause the horrible destruction that was caused last night. But we're waiting for more details from police on the type of weapons, the amount of weapons, whether he had permits for these weapons, whether any of them had been illegally modified, for example. And that's stuff that we're still, of course, going to be waiting for law enforcement to share with us. Some other things that we're looking at: is it realistic for hotels to change security policies, to screen baggage? Of course, when you've got people coming and going, they check in once, they leave, they go shopping perhaps, they come back. Right. Very difficult to get a handle on whether it's even realistic to do some additional security when it comes to what people come and go with. But those are questions that, of course, everybody's going to be asking.
And unlike the airport that we're probably most familiar with, that has a controlled entry point, we're talking about these casinos and hotels that have multiple entry points, and so it's hard to fathom going forward how something like that would be possible. But obviously, that's a question a lot of people are going to be asking.
Yeah.
And once you come and go, and of course you get your room key, you know, there's really no good way to track or trace people unless you start doing screening every time they walk in, try to go into an elevator or a stairwell, that kind of thing. So very difficult situation for the hotel, not only Mandalay Bay, but other hotels that are going to be looking at this as to whether there's anything they can do. And let me tell you a little bit more about what we've been doing today. I am in touch with multiple witnesses. I spoke to a local mother earlier this morning who was right in front of the stage as the shooting started. She says that she and those around her at first thought it was part of the show, but she was so close she was able to see the reaction on Jason Aldean's face as the realization set in on stage that something was wrong. She then said everything went dark. People started fleeing on the stage, off the stage. She was in tears telling me that a woman right next to her had been shot in the chest. And she is struggling with the guilt that she feels over surviving, mixed, of course, with the blessing. It's hard for me to talk about this, but she can still hug her 8-year-old son today. She's there for him. She praised the first responders for literally using their bodies to shield people, for covering them with their arms and shielding them. We're hoping to talk with that mother later this afternoon when she's had a chance to decompress and be with her family a little bit. And on another note completely, where there are human victims, as we all know from the hurricanes, there are also potentially animal victims that are affected and associated with traumatic events like this. Local rescue groups, as of this morning, set up a special Facebook page to help the animals of any of the victims, to make sure that they're fed and that they're cared for. There is already a posting on that Facebook page about a lost French bulldog puppy. Her name is Roulette. She was with her owners at the country festival last night. They had a concession stand there. She got lost in the commotion. This group is trying to find anyone who might have picked her up and can potentially reunite her with the owners. The group, we've learned, is also right now sending therapy dogs to the convention center to help people there. So there's so many different aspects and elements of this event that we are looking at and we are working on, not only with the victims and the witnesses, but of course also, you know, to see whether that peek that we found through district court into Stephen Paddock's history with this case against the Cosmopolitan and his gambling might have played a role leading up to the events of last night.
Definitely shed more light on that, because the only thing we knew is that he enjoyed gambling, but you're sort of adding to the fact that he was a high stakes, essentially a high roller gambler, and that also indications are that recently, as assuming when he checked in this Thursday, might have lost a lot of money.
On video poker, we're told, is what he was playing, and the sources in the legal community that we are speaking to familiar with this case say that he did lose a substantial amount of money in the last few days. Whether that happened at Mandalay Bay or at other properties, we do not have that information, just that he's well known in the resort corridor and had been gambling over the last few days, as had been his custom in the past, as we know, documented in court records going back to 2011. When he was approaching the high-limit gambling area in the Cosmopolitan during his stay there.
And that was the slip and fall case then in 2011.
That he claimed, but again lost that case in arbitration. And if it's at all possible, we will try to come up with the video that was used in that case, if it still exists, and share that with our viewers if it's available.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if it was something that was planned or something that unfolded as the weekend went on. Maybe it was a festival, a country music festival that he was staring at all weekend from his window and decided to contrive this plan. I don't know.
Right.
It does make it a little bit, we were so, we didn't have a lot of facts and we didn't have a lot on his background, and everyone was just scratching their head going, well, why would someone do this and what was the motive? But we don't know if the gambling is the motive.
We don't know, but certainly shed some light on a state of mind that is, to say the least.
Yeah, interesting, because prior to us coming up with this case, you know, you heard Sheriff Lombardo say there was nothing in local records, state records, federal records. He didn't have a criminal history. He didn't have a military background. His family said, of course, that, you know, he wasn't a gun aficionado and had given them no indication that there was anything wrong. So it was a very gray area, and now we're just at least getting a little bit of context.
But you're so right when you talk about, because people say, well, how did he get all that in there? But you're so right when you really think about it. People can come and go with
Sure, duffel
luggage,
bags,
cases, anything throughout, even all at once. They pile them up on those carts and push them up into the hotel rooms. People come from all over the world, and sometimes they have a lot of luggage with them. So it is something that I guess is a freedom to come and go as tourists. And you wonder, like you said, you look into if that could possibly change. I know when I was at the Park Theater for a comedy show, we had to go through security. We had to hand in our cell phones. They had to go in little baggies, and the process to get in was much longer and an inconvenience for a lot of people. So it'll be interesting to see if things need to change, have to change, or will change.
Or can they change?
Can they change?
Is it even realistic? Is it possible to provide the type of security and the type of screening that could have prevented or presented some indication of what was going on here?
Yeah, I think about it, just, we're sort of talking about going forward how things could possibly change, and we talked about going through metal detectors and things of that nature, and that is really complex and difficult. Just one thought I had is that if he checked in on Thursday, what was he doing? Did anyone else have access? Did he have maid service? And if not, I don't know, is a possibility of having mandatory room checks? Is that something that would even be considered here in Las Vegas? I don't know.
Unless everything was in a bag, zipped up. I guess the maids don't open those up. I don't know.
Clearly not. You do have a lot of privacy protections, especially as a paying guest at a hotel. So to imagine that something like that could change at such a dramatic level, it's quite hard to fathom.
And the other thing that you're looking into for us, thank you so much for your time and information. You've been great in sort of uncovering this information. The weapon here that we're hearing, we heard earlier ABC News Chief Investigative Correspondent Brian Ross describe it as being fully automatic weapons that he thinks are very, very difficult to sort of get your hands on, even in the black market. That is something that you're also looking to explore and try and get answers there.
And Metro is looking to ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms federal folks, to shed some light on that and to help them out looking at the weapons, the types, whether they were modified, if he had permits for these weapons, or if they were illegally obtained, because there are a lot of questions there. And if they were modified to be even more deadly than they were originally intended, of course that's gonna come into play. Where was he able to do that, if that's the case, and who had knowledge of it, who made the modifications? We're hoping, as I said, to get a firearms expert to talk with us, but we do want to get some more details from authorities before we take that next step.
Right. Like just as I had started mentioning about online, all the conversations about gun control already have already kicked up this morning, which we'll get into it another time. But
that always comes as the result of and in reaction to a situation like this, and it's awful for us to have these conversations, and that there so far hasn't appeared to be a good solution.
No, I mean, I was talking about a tweet that I'd read earlier, and someone put it this very succinctly, that, putting the numbers here together, we have one person who has shot close to 600 people in the matter of minutes. And you think about the type of weapon that can do that.
And that they exist, and that we have access to them in this country, whether legally or illegally, it's out there. So there are a lot of conversations to be had, and it shouldn't have to happen on the backs of victims, but often from tragedy, our solutions are born.
All right, Darcy Spears, thank you so much. I know you have a busy day ahead of you, but thank you for sort of updating us about where things stand and what you're looking into. A lot of great insight. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. We'll be back with more.
Of course.
All right, we want to get right now, we understand we have on the phone someone who was shot. I'm sorry, I don't have a name. Who?
Anthony.
Anthony. Okay, Anthony, are you there with us?
I am.
Where are you from, Anthony?
I'm actually originally from Las Vegas.
Okay, but you were visiting us from somewhere else at the time, or?
No, I just moved back to Vegas about 3 years ago. I got out of the Navy a couple months ago.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. This is Anthony. This is Todd Quinones again. I think we had spoken, earlier this morning.
Yes, sir.
You had just recently got out of the Navy. Is that correct, right?
Yes, I got out July 31st.
Yeah, and you had sent us pictures of you in the ambulance as well as in the hospital room. I don't know if we have those we could sort of show as we're on the phone with you. Wanted to sort of check back in with you then. How were you doing?
I'm still okay. I'm still waiting to find out if I'm going to get surgery for the bullet to be removed. Unfortunately, the hospitals are just all so overworked that it's hard for them to get to everybody in a timely manner. So I'm just trying to patiently wait. I'm sure I know there's a lot of other people here who need treatment much more than I do. So.
Can you tell us just, because I know we talked to you earlier, but we can say what we see on the video, but you were there. Can you just kind of go through what you were feeling, what it was like? It looks like panic, but it also looks like people were wondering what was going on and not really sure what to do at the moment. Go through that for us.
It definitely was. It was definitely your typical crowd panic. It happened so quick, and it started with a few people wandering and kind of looking around trying to figure out what was going on, and then as a few other people went down and we saw people starting to actually get injured, and everyone kind of came to the realization at the same time of what it is. That's when the crowd really kind of started to run and stampede, and people were kind of trying to scramble for cover anywhere they could, and unfortunately there just wasn't much to get covered behind. I had a very good friend with me, so I was just really more concerned about her. She ran and tried to jump underneath the table. Unfortunately, I think the people that were trying to find cover kind of were the main targets. That looks like where it seemed to be him focusing his fire was the non-moving object. So when she got down there, gunfire kind of immediately spat up over her, and I jumped on top of her, and that's how I got shot.
And Anthony,
it was just it just became a stampede. People were scared and just trying to run basically in the opposite direction from the fire as quick as possible. Nobody really knew where they were going.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Anthony. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that was my question. Is at that moment, how could you tell, or could you tell where the gunfire was coming from, and how did you decide as to which way you were going to get out of there?
So I kind of stood up, and I heard the gunfire coming from my right side, so I immediately looked straight right to the crowd, and I started walking her kind of fast, thinking if it is coming from the crowd, we're in a crowd and we're far enough away that as long as we keep moving in the opposite direction, we should be okay. Unfortunately, when my friend jumped down and I saw the rounds go, I realized that they were not coming from the crowd. They were coming from above us, and there really was no getting away from it. It was just kind of luck of the draw, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness, it must have felt so unreal to you. Had you been to this festival before, Anthony?
I have, actually. This is my first, ironically enough, this is my first year not going all 3 days. I went just to see Jason Aldean.
You could kind of tell, that he didn't seem to know what was going on right away. It took a little bit because...
It did. You could see that he heard it, and then it took a second, and then you could tell people ran out on stage, and when they ran out on stage to kind of grab him, that's when he really knew something was wrong. And I think that's kind of really when everyone else realized something was wrong too, is once the music finally cut off and we could hear clear gunfire and we realized that he was running for safety. I think that's when a lot of the crowd realized that they needed to run for safety.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Since you have a history here of going to this festival, what can you tell us about the crowd size last night versus the crowds that were there at other nights? I mean, I assume we're getting reports of as many as 22,000 people who were there. This was obviously the headliner of the 3-day event. Right. How was last night's crowd? Was it as big as you had seen?
It was about as big as in the past years. Yeah, typically Sunday around that time, just because it is a 3-day festival, a lot of people kind of get tired and leave early. So I had a few friends leave early. I feel very blessed that they were gone. It was kind of not that I didn't want them there, but it was just one less thing to worry about when things actually did happen. So I kind of got lucky in that sense that I really only had to worry about a couple people, and fortunately I was able to keep a pretty level head until I got them out of there. And that was really my main focus.
And did you at all get separated with people within your group at the time? And if so, how did you sort of find each other again, or did you were you all able to sort of stick together?
We were. Some of my friends were in different groups. Fortunately, everyone kind of headed in the same direction. So once I once we got into the airport hangar, was where the cops kind of funneled us. I actually got there, and people realized that I had been shot, and so the role kind of reversed. Instead of me making sure all my friends were okay, people kind of ran and started taking care of me. But fortunately, my friends were there. The majority of them all happened to just happen to be in the same spot. So I got really lucky. I got told that everyone was okay, and that's when I was kind of able to relax and just let people take care of me. So.
Anthony, I don't go to a lot of music festivals, lack of time, but I don't know if you go to a lot of music festivals normally. I know you've been to this one in the past. Will this change at all your feelings about it? Will you continue to go? Because we keep talking about, you know, will this change how people feel about entertainment or outdoor festivals or anything like that?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that. I've actually kind of just been reflecting on that myself throughout the morning. I actually do go to a very large amount of music festivals, maybe one a month, sometimes more. I think it's going to be something that maybe the first couple times I go, it's going to probably be in the back of my mind, and I'm going to have to overcome. But it's something I really enjoy. Music is just something that I have a really big passion about. So I think overall, I don't think it'll stop me from going.
Yeah. I mean, if you enjoy it, and a lot of people have been sending us messages the same, saying, you know what, I'm coming to Las Vegas, I'm doing my thing, nothing's going to stop me. And so sometimes that's what you need to do. This is a tough one because nothing inside the festival, or there's nothing there with even security on the ground that could have changed the outcome.
Yeah, there was nothing that could have really stopped it. You know, unfortunately, he had a plan, and it was well executed. And that's unfortunately the times that we're in right now. Those people, it's happening more and more, and it's more and more dangerous.
Yeah, we're looking at the images from our Mandalay Bay camera there. We have a camera right on top of that hotel. And you could just see it is a clear line of sight there down to the festival grounds, and very few places that people could have tried to hide.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we wish you the best and recovery, and we thank you for being so patient, because you can tell that you understand everyone's busy and there are people worse off than you, but we sure wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
All right, Anthony, you hang in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go to Yasmin. She's in the Breaking News Center. She has an update on the GoFundMe account that's been set up by the sheriff and our county commissioner. Look at that, Yasmin. Wow.
Yeah, we've already reached over $1 million. And if you can see, difficult to see, but listen, it says all of this money was reached in just 7 hours. So pretty incredible. And all of this money is going to be used to provide relief and financial support to the victims and the families of the shooting. And we're just seeing so many people come up and do anything that they can. I also just a few minutes ago, I saw American Airlines tweeting that they are waiving all change fees if you are coming to Las Vegas or trying to leave Las Vegas. So companies trying to do everything they can to help out the victims and people dealing with this terrible tragedy.
Yeah, and Allegiant offering the free flights too. I don't know, Yasmin, if you can scroll up. I'm curious to see the recent donations, or sorry, scroll down. I'm going the opposite. So $25, $50, $10 over on the right, $25, just proving that you can give just a small amount and it can add up to more than $1 million collected in just a few hours.
Yeah, so quickly.
And that's a great point, because that speaks to the heart of so many great people here in Las Vegas, is that they're giving whatever it is they can. And that number in the course of, what, maybe 3 hours or so is up over $1 million. That's amazing. It speaks to exactly who we are as a community. It speaks to the outpouring of support. You see the long lines outside of people giving blood. You see people showing up with bottles of water and food, and that is what is going to define us here going forward in the days and weeks ahead.
And you know what, do we have any of that video? I want to show the community outpouring, the long lines, the stacks of water, something to remind people if you want to get together and with the community. The Las Vegas Mayor, Carolyn Goodman, is holding something on the steps of City Hall. There it is. That was from Chopper 13 this morning.
Look at that.
That was the line, like literally, I feel like they announced, hey, we need blood, and 1 hour later, that was the result. It was around the corner. It was a 5-hour wait. and just been unbelievable. Again, the mayor holding this vigil or kind of gathering on the steps of City Hall today at 5, and then from 7 to 8 over at Central Church in Henderson, a huge church over there. They're opening up for prayer and a gathering from 7 to 8 p.m. for the community, because people are going, where can I go? What can I do?
Yeah.
I want to talk to other people. I want to see what I can do. And those are 2 gatherings that they've announced already.
And we had heard from a postal worker who was in town, I believe, for a convention or some kind of meeting here with other postal workers from Florida. And obviously they've been made aware of the tragedy, and they decided, okay, let's go down, let's give blood. So it's not only locals, but it's also our guests here to our great city doing everything they can. And also we should report that people there at United Blood Services in Charleston are saying, you know, thank you so much. And we don't want to discourage people from giving blood, but they have 3-4 hour wait times. They're pretty much at capacity right now for the day. They're saying perhaps you might want to think about scheduling an appointment later on this week, because they could certainly use the blood then later on this week. So just something you might want to keep in mind going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Making an appointment is always a good thing. MGM put out a call for certified therapists, trauma therapists, and they immediately got what they needed. They said, you know what, thank you very much, we are good. They asked people to come to Circus to the ballroom there, and they really needed people to work with their employees, victims, friends, people that were at the show, and that call for action was also checked off the list. So gosh, the community has really come forward.
They have responded. Okay, I'm looking at my email inbox right now, being told that Sheriff Lombardo, as well as Mayor Goodman, Clark County coroner officials, as well as the ATF, they're going to have another media briefing today at 3 o'clock. So just coming up here in a little bit, they're going to provide the latest information regarding the deadly shooting that took place last night. And, you know, they've been doing a great job in keeping us informed as best they can. And unfortunately, every time that they have kept us up to date and informed us of new numbers, then the numbers have continued to rise. So it is sort of definitely a double-edged sword, to say the least. But again, media briefing today at 3 o'clock. We'll, of course, bring that to you live as it develops there from the Metro headquarters.
All right, we also know that school was open today, but those after-school activities have been canceled. So after school is out for CCSD, they can go home. Parents, FYI, the kids don't need to report to their extracurricular activities. If you need to pick them up, that's definitely a good idea. So many things have closed. David Copperfield has canceled his shows. All Cirque du Soleil, they've canceled shows. Blue Man Group canceled shows tonight as well. You know what? No one really wants to go perform. They want to help. They want to think about what happened and see what they can do. We are definitely in mourning today, and again, all those statements have been posted on our Twitter feed as well. Carlos Santana sending out his best, and Terry Fader as well sending out a statement a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we talked about it. We talked about the great world-class entertainers who have called Las Vegas, you know, home for sometimes for brief stints, sometimes longer than that. And you think about this city and the economic engine that the Strip provides all of us, either directly or indirectly. And you can't help but wonder about how this could possibly impact that.
Right.
You know, I have faith in who we are. I have faith in this city about what we provide to the world. It might take some time, but I believe certainly that we are a city that will find a way to come back and to get through this.
Yeah, I mean, a lone shooter,
yeah,
you know, in this situation has done so much damage and killed people, injured people, ruined people's lives, their families. It is such a shame that this happened, and again, we have mentioned, just like you did, we are an entertainment community, and this is the heart of our business here in Las Vegas and our love of what we do and entertaining tourists and that come visit us, and they can kind of escape from reality. And so I have faith that that will go on after just a little bump in the road here, because people are already saying it's not going to stop me from celebrating the life that I do live. I'm going to come out, I'm going to have fun, and don't you worry. Missouri. So look at those lines, though. This is the United Blood Services there on Charleston. That was just one of the locations. They opened up one in Henderson, and then eventually they opened up like 5 or 6 more, and then they had to stop because there were too many people. So again, make an appointment. Doesn't mean that they won't need blood next week. Sometimes everyone comes at once, and then they kind of need it spread out. So keep that in mind.
All right, let's recap, shall we, what the chief investigative reporter, Darcy Spears, just kind of updated us with maybe about 20 minutes or so ago. She's been digging into the suspect's past. We're trying to find answers. We're trying to, as best we can, understand perhaps what was going on. And she brought up really 2 incidents directly related to the casino. She talked about a October, I believe, 2011 incident of a slip and fall case at the Cosmo, which perhaps there might be some video of that, which he claimed that he had slipped on some kind of liquid there on his way to the high-limit gambling area. So that's another bit of information there. Apparently, we knew that he was a gambler, but now we're coming to know that he was a high-limit gambler. Anyway, he says that he slipped on some kind of liquid substance there on the floor and hurt, I believe, his hamstring or wrist. Anyway, he wound up losing that case to an arbitrator. Then, now, most recently, Darcy is hearing from her sources that he may have lost a lot of money on video poker very recently. Exactly how much money, we don't know. And exactly when, we don't know. We just sort of know it's recent and that it was described as a lot of money. We don't know if that has anything to do with his motive. Perhaps it does, perhaps it doesn't. But certainly it shed some new light on this suspected shooter, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. And I've said it before, 64 years old, that was one of the first things that jumped out to me this morning when Metro identified him. So many times in these mass shootings, we've seen the gunman being some kind of deranged kid, essentially, or maybe perhaps someone in their 20s or early 30s, perhaps. But to see a 64-year-old be responsible for this is beyond startling and puzzling as to why? Why would you live your life 64 years, no criminal history, never having trouble with the law, no sort of run-ins that we're aware of with the law, and suddenly unleash this level of absolute heartbreak and horror on our city? Those are some of the things that we're trying to figure out exactly, and so Darcy Spears is looking into that right now, as well as the type of weapon that he was using. We're looking for some kind of a weapons expert here in Las Vegas that could perhaps maybe shed some light on what are some of the possibilities, how he would get his hands on either this weapon or how he would get his hands on devices used to modify weapons to make it fully automatic. Again, it's been described to us by law enforcement and also by ABC News chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross that this appears to have been a fully automatic weapon that was capable of firing numerous rounds in a matter of seconds. And certainly when we hear that audio, and maybe we could play that now coming up, of these bursts. We heard at least 2, maybe 3 bursts of rapid gunfire, then moments of silence, and then you heard another burst. That gives you an indication of the power of this weapon. I don't know, do we have that available or not? Maybe the guys in the booth, the men and women right now, are trying to re-cue that up. But in any case, those are just some of the things right now that Darcy is looking into.
Sure, and then we've reported that ABC News also saying that they found about 20 guns inside the hotel room and ammunition. Then they went to the home, and Tom George says that they found also tons of guns there, also ammunition. We don't have a number on any of it, but he definitely had weapons in both locations. And again, if you're just tuning in and you don't know, he had a home in Mesquite, has a home in Mesquite, and that's where police are right now as well. Again, we can listen into some of this video sent in by a viewer. So you heard the rounds there before everyone finally was able to get up and just kind of start to escape. But you could see everyone drop to the ground as the shots were fired.
And that is headliner right there, Jason Aldean. You see in that moment when those shots were first fired, he kind of looked off a little bit puzzled, like so many people, like, what is it that I just heard?
Right.
And then you begin to see the wounded, and you begin to see the blood, and you realize, my goodness, we're under attack, essentially.
And you remember after the boxing match there at T-Mobile, there was a moment at the Cromwell when actual, one of the barriers just kind of fell to the ground and people thought shots were fired. The police presence and the quick response to that, we were all talking, going, gosh, isn't it a shame that police have to respond to every little thing? But that's the life that we live in. It's the society that we live in today. But that might have sounded like, you know, or maybe a quick round or something. Maybe it fell and then it broke and then this and that, and then people thought it was shots fired. But anyway, and then you listen to this and it's true. It's like, wait, what's happening here? It takes a minute to sink in before you can then take cover. And then before you can get out of there. And so obviously you could tell it wasn't clear what was happening and everyone was very confused.
And so many people, you know, the governor, Commissioner Sisolak, all down the line, the President Trump, highlighting the training and the impact that Metro had in preventing the further loss of life. I mean, we're talking about within a couple of minutes or so, they were able to find out exactly where the shooter was there on the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay, and they were able to neutralize him. We were indicating that from the sheriff was telling us that some members of SWAT did shoot at him, but they do believe that perhaps he might have taken his own life there as they were closing in. We're going to check in right now with David Schumann. He filed a report for us from the United Blood Services facility there off of, I believe, Charleston.
Guys, I have a lump in my throat from just seeing everything that's happening here at United Blood Services. This is the donation center on West Charleston. We are told they are in a 6-hour backlog, and that should come as no surprise if you see how many hundreds of people are out here. We're just at the door. You can't exactly even see how many people really go back. The line wraps around several times like a snake, and there's water bottles being handed out past to people in line. There's Shake Shack burgers being handed out, pizzas being delivered. This is the positive side of Las Vegas that you see come out of an unspeakable tragedy like we had last night. There's a heart up on the wall there at the donation center, and you know that's just really symbolic of all the heart that these people are showing. You know, talking to people in line, you can't help but be proud of your city. You have something that happens last night like it did, and then this is what you see immediately. In fact, this blood center I know was open at 4 a.m. That's when they opened the doors, and even then, in those early morning hours, there was a line of people waiting just to get in. This is an amazing outpouring of support. We have the Salvation Army here giving out food. There are charging centers for people with their phones who don't know yet necessarily what the status of their loved ones are. There are people still in the dark about what's happening with the people they know, and yet they're here. They're here to help. There are other locations to donate blood, however. As I said, there's on a 6-hour backlog here, and you know, I have actually tweeted it out on my Twitter account, a list of other locations. There are blood donations going on all over the city, and it's really just a heartening thing to see. We are going to stay out here, talk to more people. You can hear the positive emotions coming from this, and I said at the very beginning of this, it puts a lump in my throat, and I'm just getting chills seeing the way that our city is responding to everything.
All right, thanks so much, David. Yeah, it is pretty incredible. We watched a lot of people come forward in the hours after this shooting. Oh, gosh, Yasmin, I know that we're learning more and more about some of the victims. Gosh, there's 58 confirmed dead and, gosh, 500 plus hurt. And we're starting to hear more stories about some of those victims. What do you have?
I mean, Dana, we're just seeing people from all over the country posting on social media about people that they've heard have been injured. I just want to run through some of them to give you an update. Our affiliate in Tucson saying 2 Arizona DPS personnel injured in Las Vegas. And then the police chief, this is Ontario, California, tweeting, join me in praying for a quick and complete recovery. One of their officers and his wife hurt last night. No update on their condition, but we do know one of the first people to be identified was a man from Tennessee, a young man, just 29 years old. This is one of the first people to be identified, and then we're also hearing that a local student who went to a graduate from here in Henderson, family members posting on Facebook, and I do just want to take a second and post some of the beautiful words that his family saying. He was the most kind and loving soul. Everyone who met him loved him. His contagious laugh and smile, and he was truly an amazing person. So we're seeing A lot of people just posting online. We're just getting some of the names and just some information right now, but wanted to pass along probably one of the worst parts of our job. But we do want to let people know the very latest.
We're going to have to share this news as the names keep coming out. We've been talking about the shooter and about his character. His brother not really, sure how this could have happened, said he would have never thought in a million years. And we're also right now going to listen to a woman who knew Stephen Paddock. She was just interviewed, and I believe she lives in Texas. Let's listen in. Okay, I guess we don't have that audio. We're trying to cue that up for you. We will have it shortly, though, because we wondered, because we've heard from neighbors. Tom George said neighbors that live near his home in Mesquite said, never would have thought, lived here for a year, seemed fine to me, kept the house nice, quiet.
Yeah, right.
Brother said he was shocked. Never would have thought. He calls his mom. He texts his mom all the time, checks in on her. And so I'm interested to hear what this lady from Texas has to say about Stephen Paddock, because so far we can't seem to find out much besides his love of gambling and losing money, as well, as Darcy said this weekend. If maybe that put him into any type of rage, we don't know. Yeah, that's some of the questions that we will have certainly going forward as we try to just come to terms with right now with what our city is dealing with right now, being now the center and the location of the deadliest mass shooting in the history of our great nation. It is not a distinction that any of us ever wanted or possibly could have ever imagined, but yet here we are. We find ourselves dealing with this unspeakable sense of tragedy and grief and loss. But among the darkness, we're seeing so many great, bright moments of what the true spirit is of our city, and we've seen so many people sort of respond in such a positive way. So we're trying to also bring to you that aspect of this story. It is every bit as important as anything else, because I know so many people right now are getting text messages, as have you, people from reaching out on Twitter and social media, saying, how are you guys doing? We do want to, how can we help out? So that has been a great thing to see among this this horrible day. For sure. I was asking if we could get the a little bit more, the longer interview with the brother in Florida. He was interviewed this morning, pretty shocked. I believe we have that queued up, so let's listen in.
Condolences go out to all the people involved here. An asteroid just landed on us and on Las Vegas. As far as we are concerned, we have no idea.
Does your brother live there or here, or what?
This is all in the public record. He lived in Mesquite.
Okay.
He had a girlfriend.
Okay.
He gambled at the casinos. He called his mother.
Ever any indication at all that this would...
Nothing. That we're lost. I don't understand. There's no anything.
Describe the brother you know. Describe the man you know.
He's a guy. He's just a guy who lived in Las Vegas and played at the casinos, went on cruises, did stuff. There's nothing. That's what's bizarre. I mean, I don't even want to say, but he lived in a house. He had a girlfriend. There's nothing.
Was there anything going on in his life?
As far as we know, there's nothing.
Okay.
I mean...
When was the last time you talked to him?
He texted me after the hurricane when we lost power for 5 days to ask how my mom was. I mean, there's nothing. We're dumbstruck. She's
holding up?
pretty freaked out.
Yeah.
Strangely enough.
The number of firearms that he had, does that surprise you? I mean,
yes. I have no idea that he would have that many firearms.
Do you have a military background?
No. And I don't want to talk much more. This is all, once again, what I'm telling you is all part of the record. He has no police record. He doesn't even have parking tickets, probably.
How did you hear that he was...
We got phone calls.
No, it was just a new one that they laid down for me. All right. We're listening to the brother there in Florida saying he's shocked. Doesn't seem like his brother would do this. Didn't say they were super close, though.
Right.
But did say that he, was aware of what he did. He liked to gamble. He had a girlfriend. He lived in Mesquite. He liked to eat an occasional burrito and just seemed like a regular guy. Texted his mom and called his mom many, many times and kept in touch. And so he said, I don't know what happened. And as you heard, and you can see by the look on his face, I feel like he honestly is shocked.
Yeah, I believe he said, I feel like an asteroid just hit us and an asteroid just hit Las Vegas. Let us check back in right now with Yasmin. You have an update right now on some information from some victims here?
That's right, Todd. We actually just got an email from the Valley Health System breaking down just how many people, how many patients hospitals saw. So in total, there were 228 injured patients, and you can see breakdown by hospital. Desert Springs Hospital saw 105, Spring Valley Hospital 53, Henderson saw 32, Valley Hospital 29, Summerlin saw 6, Centennial Hills 3, and this does not include Sunrise Hospital, which is I'm pretty sure the closest hospital to the shooting, and UMC, which is the only level 1 trauma center here. So imagining those two hospitals saw all of the rest of the patients, but you can see just how many people people all over the valley coming together to do everything they can, make sure patients are treated the best way that they can.
All right, Yasmin, thank you. Just sort of on a note here for us here at 13 Action News, as you can imagine, this is an all-hands-on-deck sort of event. We're doing the best thing we can to provide you a live, nonstop, continuing coverage. And to that end, right now, Tricia and Steve join us back now on the anchor desk. We took over, I think, at, was it 3:30 this morning?
Yeah.
You guys went home, got some rest. You guys are going to begin your sort of time here at the anchor desk. I'm just curious as to maybe get some of your thoughts right now, looking ahead at what we are all going through.
It's been a difficult night for me. I really didn't get much sleep. I woke my son up at home. He heard me come in the house. I had to explain that something terrible has happened because I knew he would hear it at school today. So I had to explain that. And then just been on social media a lot. I still can't wrap my head around that this has happened here in our city, because I moved here 16 years ago. 7 days shy of September 11th, and I saw a real transformation in Las Vegas after that happened with security. And now in the wake of this, I know this is going to change things. My heart grieves for the families, everybody in this town. We like to call it a big, small town.
Sure.
We have friends whose sons were there. My stepdaughter's 2 girlfriends were there last night. So this hits real close to home, and hearing from families.
Yeah.
This is home, absolutely.
One of the things that I think we all should be encouraged by, that we've seen since this happened, is the response from this town. And we've always known that Las Vegas is a very giving place, and Las Vegans are the first people to stand up and want to help people in other towns, other cities that have to deal with this kind of a tragedy. So it's really no surprise to me that we're seeing the lines at the blood banks, because people, a lot of people here don't ask themselves, gee, I don't know what to do. They do know what to do,
Sure.
Right.
and they're doing it. So I think moving forward, it's going to be hard for a while, but I have no doubt that this city and this community will get through this with flying colors. And we're already seeing things on social media, people from out of town saying, hey, I was coming to Las Vegas next week. I'm definitely coming now.
Yeah.
I'm not canceling.
Great.
Because people know that this is, they know about us.
Yeah.
They
A
know
lot of
how
people
we are.
visit here, don't they?
But no, and you have a lot of tough conversations with other parents who go to school with your kids, and everybody's talking through it and trying to figure out what just happened to us. But you're seeing a lot of hugs, a lot of people this morning at my daughter's school. Just I saw a lot of parents hugging their kids, and we're strong.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
for
are.
sure.
Sure. Seeing a lot of things close, people, they canceled the after-school activities and things like that. You can tell people just kind of want to stay focused on this right now, or want to stay around their families, make sure everyone's safe, and just spend time together. You really learn to appreciate life,
Okay, with that said, Dana and I are going to sign off, at least for now, and leave it in the more than capable hands here of Tricia and Steve. It has been an honor, I guess, to try and bring all of you the best information, the most reliable information we could, as best as we can during this horrific time here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely proud that we have been on since yesterday. It's unbelievable, and people have been writing in and thanking us for the information, and that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do every day, is to bring people the information that they need, and we're going to continue to do that.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Get some rest.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys want to kind of put up some video or something so we can kind of get out, and Tricia and Steve can move in, but we will see you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Dana and Todd. And, you know, one of the things, Steve, we were talking about is the power of social media. And what has been so amazing is how many people I've heard from, and I know a lot of our other anchors, I was talking to our news director about this, how they want to help. And so a lot of people are coming together. They want to drop off water. They want to do what they can do. They want to open up. I had one lady contact me. She wants to open up her building. So we're trying to facilitate all this information and bring it to our viewers, because there are a lot of you. And we are the station that is known here in Southern Nevada for being there for people and helping people, and we're going to coordinate all of that information and get it out to you. Meantime, I understand we have some sound, is that correct, of the gun store owner who allegedly sold a gun to Stephen Paddock that we wanted to listen to.
Recognition is probably the biggest thing. Is I recognized him immediately, his name of what it was. He's been in my store. He's frequented here a couple different times.
Again, these are all from November 28th. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Again, these are all between you and Jonathan on November 28th and 29th of 2013. All of these highlighted calls or highlighted messages. You remember texting him that much on those days?
It's been a while, but
I understand. Here we go. Additional text messages incoming and outgoing to his phone between the two of you through the 29th of November. Also through the 29th. Again, more through the 29th. All of these on the 29th. And into the 30th of November. I'll go down to December of 2013. And these are messages between you and Jonathan on December 3rd and through the 4th of 2013. December 5th. All of these are December 5th of 2013. Are those messages back and forth between you and Jonathan Hearn? Yes. That are highlighted? All of these are through December 5th. And then the next one in page into December 5th to December 6th. Again, these are all text messages and pictures. You're sending in pictures, and was he sending you also pictures?
yeah, they were nothing explicit. I can promise you.
I understand. And the photos, both you were sending him photos and he was sending you photos, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Getting all into December. Now we're into December 7th. December 8th. Through December 8th. You both were texting back and forth quite a bit throughout the day. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming after this long you don't remember what the content of the messages were.
Sometimes it was about calls he had went on. I know there was some training he had done. So some of those pictures were of training activities he had done.
Okay.
Sometimes it was just day-to-day stuff like that.
Just talking about life a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had just, like I said, just moved back and was just getting divorced. So sometimes it was just somebody to kind of talk to. I was kind of reestablishing like friendships, and so he was one.
We're now getting into latter parts. This is the middle of December 2013. Again, all of these highlighted portions are contacts between you and Jonathan Hearn. Is that right?
Yes.
Back up a little bit. The number right there, 760-475-7844, did you know whose number that was?
No.
Okay. But that's in December of 2013, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're in mid-December 2013, again, ongoing conversations between you and Jonathan Hearn. I'll skip down. These are in December 19th, latter part of December. Now, this is Christmas Day. You're sending a picture to him, and then you and he were texting back and forth. Is that right?
Don't recall, but I guess.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it was all in the evening of Christmas Day, 2013.
I believe I did not have my kids that year.
Okay.
I had them at a later date, so.
Okay. I know how it is when exchanging children. This again.
You mean just for the holidays or the entire year?
For the holidays, we have to split holidays.
Got it, thank you, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now we're into the end of December and 2013. Now we're into January of 2014. If you recall, still communicating with Jonathan at that point in time.
I don't recall, but.
I know it's been a lot of years.
Yeah.
Trust me, as you get older, it gets worse. Now this is beginning of January of 2014. Again, all these highlighted text messages and incoming and outgoing were with you. I'll skip a little further ahead. January 10th. January 18th, beginning at approximately, if I'm not mistaken, 2:60 in the morning. That'd be about right.
I don't recall that exact date, what that would have
Okay.
been for.
In through January.
If I can, there was one night towards the end of our communication that he called or texted, and it probably was around that time of night, and he was around my neighborhood and started messaging me.
Okay.
And he stopped by my house, and that was the very first and only time I actually met him in person. So that actually could be the date. I can't recall exactly.
That looks to be it as far as your communications with Jonathan Hearn. You were talking about that he showed up, or he texted you late in the morning. Had you guys supposed to have gone out on a date at some point?
Yes.
And did he show up for that date?
No. He called, or actually texted a couple hours before and canceled it on me.
Okay. And was that prior to the time that he came over, about 2 in the morning?
Yes.
Okay. You recall, I'm sure you don't remember the date that was with regards to that. What was the reason that he came over at the last minute, if you recall?
He said he was at some friend's house and hanging out, and I happened to still be awake, if I remember correctly, for whatever. I'm a night owl, so I was awake, and he was going to be coming by, and I was curious to actually see him in person, and he just parked right out front of my parents' house, and I went out front for maybe 15 minutes and talked to him and gave him a hard time for flaking on me, and that was about it.
Did you ever hear from Jonathan again after that?
After that, that was, I think, about it.
I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor. Oh, I'm sorry, I do have one thing other thing. I apologize, I forgot. If I may approach you.
Please.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as Defense Exhibit R, and ask you to take a look at the first photograph of that. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
And who is that photo of?
Myself and my dad.
And do you recall when that photo was taken?
That was my wedding day. 2005.
Okay. And does that accurately depict the way you appeared at that time in 2005?
Yes.
Is that one of the photographs that you had on your Instagram account?
I'm not sure if I did or at that time or not. I can't recall.
Is it one of the photographs you have on your Facebook account?
Yes.
Okay.
I did not have a Facebook at that time.
Okay. This time I move all of Defense Exhibit R into evidence, Your Honor.
Any objection?
None, Your Honor.
Would be admitted.
Now, I have no further questions for Ms. Lentz. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lentz. As it relates to Jonathan Hearn, you met him one time?
In person, yes.
Okay. You exchanged text messages with him? Yes. Okay. And when you spoke in the text messages, you were reestablishing friendships following your divorce?
When I started communicating with him the second time around, yes, that it was just very friendly, yeah.
Okay. During these text messages, you talked about day-to-day stuff, including his job, training, etc.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Nothing further.
Sure.
Was a part of the communication with Jonathan also for you to, hopefully the two of you begin a dating relationship? Was that the intent?
Objection, speculation.
And you can answer.
He had wanted to take me out on a date to like show me like a nice time, like treat me nicely, show me what how he worded it. It's been a long. He wanted me just to have like a nice night and just not worry about anything, and just I don't know what his intentions were exactly, but yeah, he was charming, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
And it was kind of flattering to have someone who was focusing so much attention on you. Would that be right?
Of course.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Sure. You stood down, listen. Thank you.
I wonder if I can just step out and see if my other witness is here. Thank you.
All right, the president speaking there. I'm just getting updated here, Steve, on Twitter, and Tom George is saying that the cul-de-sac at Stephen Padlock's cul-de-sac is still blocked off right now. They still continue to search the house. Neighbors in that neighborhood describe him as what they would say normal, but the brother says anything but. We also wanted to hear from, we have some sound from school secretary from Mexico who was killed at last night's festival, and we have some sound from the superintendent.
Employee of our school district, but was an incredible, loving and sincere friend, mentor, advocate for our students in many of the schools in which she worked in. As a colleague, she was outgoing, kind, and considerate of all those she worked with, and we will miss all these great attributes that she brought and shared with our students, with our staff, and parents in our community.
This is, of course, because of the tourist nature of Las Vegas, we're going to be hearing, unfortunately, we're going to be hearing stories like this from all over the country, as well as locally. So many people from out of town. This was a three-day event, this Country Western Festival. The venue right across the street from Mandalay Bay, and you can see some of the video from last night. Still hard to watch. And if we can, let's just go ahead and put the sound back up again. People, if you're just becoming familiar with what happened, just listen to the firepower and the chaos. Jason Aldean on stage. There you can see he started to hear the gunfire and glanced over. Not quite sure exactly what was happening, like so many thousands of people there in front of the stage. Last night, it's also worth noting that the vantage point from Mandalay Bay, from that 32nd floor window, the area in front of the stage was lighted because of all of the concert lights. A very clear view for somebody to see exactly where they wanted to open fire. And on the left side of the screen, the view now, and you can see the field of fire that the gunman had was it's
approximately October 2008.
I don't mean to embarrass you, sir. Was this what you call what they call swinging, or that type of behavior?
We opened up our marriage, my wife and I, at the time, with Rob and Sabrina.
Okay. And how long a period of time did this relationship with Sabrina and Rob, you and your wife, continue after you started up?
I would say no longer than maybe 3 months, maybe just after the holidays.
Did something occur that caused it to no longer the four of you to engage in your open marriage?
Yes, my ex-wife and Sabrina got in an argument, a disagreement.
At some point, did you and your wife split?
Objection, relevant. Sustained.
Well, let me ask you this. At some point after the initial sexual relationship with Sabrina, did you and Sabrina develop an emotional relationship?
Objection, relevant.
Overruled. I was in a emotional relationship with Rob and Sabrina both. They were my support for going through a divorce from my high school sweetheart.
That was your now ex-wife, Nicole?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you oftentimes talk to Sabrina on the phone late at night when you were going through your divorce?
Yes, every time I spoke with Sabrina, Rob knew about it.
And were they kind of your support group when you were going through this?
Yes.
Sabrina, that major part of that support for you?
Yes, they both were, yes.
At some point, did that emotional support get cut off?
Yes.
And when did that occur, if you recall, approximately?
I don't know the dates. I know it was right when Sabrina started to work at Costco. Maybe a week into her working at Costco, whenever that was.
And with regards to that, do you know, or what was the cause of that emotional relationship with Sabrina and Rob? What caused that to end?
Objection, hearsay and relevant.